Franconia established a museum. So the Franconia Museum is actually located in the Lee District Government Center building. And we're going to run just a short presentation to show a little bit of then and now of the Franconia area. For those of you who don't know, the Franconia Museum is a non-profit community-based organization, and we're run entirely by volunteers. Our mission is to preserve the history, the past, present, and future of the Franconia area in pictures, artifacts, and stories. And what we do is people come to us with pictures. We work with them to sit down and write their stories and help research their history. So the museum reaches out by educating, enriching, and bringing together the greater community. And these are just some of our goals: to protect the history, promote the heritage, and provide educational opportunities. And like I said, we are established as a permanent museum in the District Government Center at 6121 Franconia Road. Jim, I'm going to let you talk about this.
Okay, this is one of our oldest pictures that the museum has. It's a Civil War camp that was located in where Telegraph Road meets Franconia Road at the bottom of a bunch of hills. And sort of what we're going to show you is what was there before and what's there now, kind of an idea. Things are very different now. Traffic. It's kind of a gray day when I took this, so it's not a real great picture. This was Ward's Corner, which was located up near Edison High School on Franconia Road. It was a very famous place until it burned down in 1959. And that's the same location today. It was a Crown station for a long time, and recently it's become a Shell station. This is Joe Alexander. Most people know who he is, in Metro in 2008. This is the Metro in 1900. It was used the same way it is today. That's how people got to town. Little train station. A lot of people ask us where that was. Well, there's Fleet Drive and Old Franconia Road. There's an Old Franconia Road, which really used to be Franconia Road in the old days. It was a big curve, and when they widened the road, they straightened it out, but they left Old Franconia there. The train station was located somewhere in this area. Don't know exactly where it was, but somewhere on this corner. This was an old country store. Jeff talked a little bit about some of the stores back from that time. This building's still on Franconia Road. Now it's a house. You'd never know that was the same building without that earlier picture. Franconia Hardware Store, real famous place. It was the post office for a long time. Joe Alexander's family owned it. Joe eventually owned it. My mother eventually became the manager of it. Today, the building's still there. It's Paradiso Restaurant right across from the Governmental Center. The Hayfield Barn, we talked a little bit about the Carroll family and the Hayfield estate or plantation, which was originally George Washington's and then passed through some other families. That barn was still there until it caught on fire in the 1960s, I believe, and burned down. Franconia used to be a real farming community where you had a house and a bunch of fields and everything was spread out. That little brick house right there is still on Franconia Road, right across from Franconia School. But now it's in the middle of this picture. That's the Sims house. And that's the neighborhood behind it. That's what things look like now. Once upon a time, that was a dairy farm. The Hayes store on Buell Road. This was another local store, and this building's still there. It's been a lot of different things, and now it's a cleaners and a kids' clothing store, and it was a furniture store and a secondhand store, a lot of things. The interesting thing here is to look how much the road bed has changed. The road was pretty level with the front of the store once upon a time. Now it's down about 3 feet. Fitzgerald store was a very famous place right in Franconia. Anybody that grew up in Franconia like I did went to Fitzgerald store to get their penny candy and turn in their soda bottles and buy their soda pop or their ice cream or whatever. And the family lived right here behind attached to the store. Well, this is about where it was today. Except it would probably be out here somewhere in the middle of traffic because they widened the road. And these prices have come down a lot in the last 3 weeks since I took this, but I had to, throw the lower gas price in there, which everybody was glad to see. Now, it's almost $2 now. Franconia Firehouse was originally located where the governmental center is, and it was a little, like, one-bay building with a steeple on top that eventually became this building. It's still the center of the same building, but built wings on it and a big auditorium on the back that was used for a lot of social functions. And eventually that was torn down and it was moved on to Beulah Street across from, or beside Franconia School. And that's a very big modern fire department now. I don't know if anybody's ever been in there, but they have all kinds of equipment. This was the movie theater. This is where you went to the movies in the 40s and 50s in Franconia. It was at Ward's Corner. It was a single screen. I showed this on History Day because I wanted to make the point to the kids that were there that you didn't go to movies that had multiple screens. You went to a movie theater that had one screen and showed one movie. You had one choice. And today we've got Kingstown, which has 16 screens and all kinds of choices. We used to have Labor Day parades. The fire department sponsored them, and used to block Franconia Road for 4 or 5 hours at a time. And you can imagine what a traffic disaster that would be today if you tried to do that. They had carnivals behind the firehouse as part of that function. This is Clarence Devers and Jim Talbert, who were two real old Franconia families. They used to have a popularity queen, and it wasn't based on beauty. It was based on how many pennies they collected at a penny a vote. Whoever collected the most money for the fire department was crowned queen. Used to have these big May Day celebrations at the elementary school where they crowned the queen too. They were sort of what Field Day is nowadays. This is Old Cameron School down on Telegraph Road and Wilton Road. That building is part of this house, which is still there. Laurel Grove School, which we talked about earlier. One of the few existing one-room segregated schools anywhere that still exists, and we have it right here in Franconia. Old Franconia School, late 1920s. That is the man standing in the back there with the glasses, the tall man, is W.T. Woodson. Who was the supervisor of the superintendent of schools at the time, and he was the one that really got the modernization of schools going in Fairfax County. These people were in that picture, and most of them are still with us today. This was a museum function where we took their picture. They were little kids in that picture. This is where Old Franconia School was, across from Potter's Lane on Old Franconia Road. This is the new Franconia School, which was dedicated in February 1932. This is it under construction. When you look from the back, you see how small the school was. It was 4 classrooms and a central auditorium. And I always like this old car, this old gangster-looking car here behind the school. Franconia School kept changing over the years. It became 8 classrooms. It was kind of a U shape. This is during World War II. There's Jeeps behind these students, and it was some sort of a war bond or war stamp drive. And there's soldiers sitting in it. You can see their helmets if you look close. You know how you see all the trailers nowadays behind the schools? Well, they had the same thing back in the 40s and 50s. They had Quonset huts and tar paper buildings that some of the old Franconians said you almost froze to death in when you went to school every day. Cafeteria was added in 1957. Before then, they didn't. You stayed in your classroom or outside.